Welcome to part 2, where I will attempt to analyse the chess game I played like BETH HARMON from the Netflix show The Queen's Gambit. Well, perhaps the analysis will be from the point of view of an age 6 BETH HARMON who hadn't yet played the game, but I will do the best that I can. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to have a go at analysing the game I've just played. Now, the reason for this is I've watched a lot of sort of chess videos, about how to improve at chess, and a thing I've come across a lot is people saying that a good way to improve at chess is to analyse your games after you play them. So I'll have a go at that now. Now, I'll say straight out that don't expect any grandmaster analysis here. I'm still a beginner, so I'll do the best I can. But yeah, bear in mind I'm not a grandmaster or any sort of master. Okay, right. So let's delve a little bit deeper, as they say. So my opponent plays e4 first. I go with g6. Now, a lot of people reply to e4 with the e5. I've seen that a lot. I've seen that a lot in other games that I've seen played. But I just wanted to do something different. And as I say, I went with the kings in the in defence, which I looked up a little bit, so I kind of know the first few moves of that. As I say, as a beginner, I don't really know that much opening theory. I know the first maybe 5-6 moves, and then I just start playing chess. And the kings in the in defence seem like quite a straightforward opening to learn. So I think my opponent's reply is the best move. I think I've heard somebody say that. Well, I've heard in chess videos that I've watched that you should try and take the centre, and if your opponent lets you take the centre, you should take it, and that's what my opponent done there. So I've moved my bishop into a key and feto position, which it now says I'm down a pawn. The computer analysis, I'm assuming that's because my opponent's got the centre. Although I am attacking that pawn. Oh no, it's protected by his queen. Oh, okay. My opponent moves his pawn to protect that the pawn he's just moved. I think if I was him, because he's lost his advantage now, should he have? Is that because he hasn't developed one of his minor pieces there? So let's have a look back. If we come back, what would have happened if he would have moved his knight? Because that knight develops a piece and it protects that pawn. It's not that much different. Okay. So we were here. Okay. So I push pawn to d6. My opponent, he brings the knight out now. Okay. So I move the bishop out to pin that knight. He develops his bishop. Now, this is the move that the computer said was a mistake because his advantage just jumped right up. Now, I'm not entirely sure why this move is a mistake, if I'm being perfectly honest. You see, my thinking behind this move, so say for instance my opponent castles, well his next move was castle. Yeah, it was. I then bring my knight out. Now, moving back, the reason why I did this move is because, say for instance my opponent attacks that pawn. Yeah, it wouldn't have worked. Okay. Yeah, okay, I'm wrong. Okay, so knight out. His bishop comes now. The computer doesn't like that move, bringing his bishop out. I push pawn, fighting for the centre and attacking his bishop at the same time. He captures. Now, I captured with the bishop, hoping that he was either going to forget that I'm attacking his queen and just capture my knight here like that, and then I would have taken his queen. Or if he would have captured the bishop like that and weakened his king at the same time. Regrettably, he did neither. He saw it and took. So I took back, attacking his bishop, and he can't take this bishop because he would then lose the bishop to my knight there. Okay, so he moves his bishop. Good move. I castle. He moves his bishop down, and I think he wants to take the pawn on b7. So I took. He takes back, as he should. I move my rook over, protecting the pawn directly ahead of it. So he moves his pawn down to reinforce that pawn. Now, I push this pawn, attacking the queen. Again, he can't take because then I would take his queen. So he can't do that. And that was my thought behind moving the rook along a few moves earlier. He moves his queen up out the way. Okay. So I move my knight into the centre of the board. And again, from videos I've watched, the knight tends to be at its best in the centre of the board. So this is why I did this move. Now, okay, let me just move back a moment. So when I make a move, or before I make a move, I picked up a tip from a video that I watched from a grandmaster named Maurice Ashley, his name is. I saw this on one of his videos, and you can look him up. He's very, very good. He advised that before you make a move, to sort of think about what your opponent's next move or your opponent's plan could be to counteract toward that move. So, and he advises to flip the board when doing this. So if we flip the board, okay. So I move my knight out to here. Now, I'm now looking at this from the viewpoint of my opponent who had the white pieces. And I was kind of thinking, what if I move the knight out to here, which is what I did end up doing, what can he respond to this? What would I do if I was him? Now, the first thing I saw was he might try and attack my knight like that with a bishop. Which is fine. You know, my knight's protected. I can, you know, my bishop here is protecting it. I can move this pawn up to protect it. I also thought that he might do what he actually ended up doing, which is move that pawn out and create a nice pawn chain, which on the surface of it looks like a good idea. He's now got a nice pawn chain. You know, this pawn, you know, the top three pawns can't be captured without, you know, they're all protected by the pawn down on a2. So it looks like a good move, but then I spotted something. You see, by moving this, my bishop here is now pointing towards his rook, which is why, if we flip the board back, I then play this move, which looks like it just sacrifices a knight. You know, he can capture my knight. He can't capture it with the queen, mind you, because then I would just capture his queen back. So I thought that if he does, I mean, his king's in check. So when your king's in check, you either have to move your king or capture the piece attacking it. You've got no other move. If he would have taken, which is fine, I would have then taken his rook, which he left exposed a few moves earlier when he moved that pawn down. And if he would have taken it that way, he would have then exposed his king. You've got a nice open file now. He did the best move he could in the circumstances. He just moved his king, and then I took his rook anyway, which he then recaptured, weakening the king as well. But as you know, a rook is more valuable than a knight, so I was happy with that outcome. So the game went on. I then moved the queen over. He then brought his rook to protect that file. Now I moved the bishop here, threatening checkmate, so there's only one of two moves he could have done here. He could have moved his rook here, but then, you know, I would have just taken his rook. He takes back, and then, you know, I move my queen back here, say, and I'm now up. I've taken both of his rooks off the board, so he does this move, and any other move other than the, you know, the rook down or what he played here, the game would have been over. So I decided to take. He takes back and I take back. The reason I did that is because in that exchange I actually won a pawn. So that's why I did that. He brings his rook down, and you can see on the analysis that, you know, the computer analysis now, I'm clearly winning. It says I'm 4.56, which means I'm basically 4.5 pawns up. Rook up. He brings his queen down. I slide my rook here. I thought at this point he was, well, he couldn't have exchanged queen. Yeah, he could have. I thought he was going to exchange queens here, but he didn't. He brings the knight in. Rather than taking his queen immediately, and the reason I did plan to exchange queens is because I'm up in material. And again, from chess videos that I've watched, they do always say that if you're up in material and your opponent offers a queen trade, you should take it most times. Before I did that though, I took his pawn because he left it unprotected, and now if he trades queens, I've won another pawn in the process. He still didn't trade queens, so now I do. He brings his rook round. I slide my rook over. He takes. I take, and then he takes. He probably shouldn't have done that, because now he's let me go into an endgame with a rook versus a knight, and I have a pawn advantage as well, so probably not the wisest move by my opponent. Bring my rook here, attacking 2 pawns. He's going to lose one, so yeah. And then the game pretty much goes on, you know, a few more moves, I take a few more pawns, and then he resigns here. And I think the reason he resigns at this point is, if you look on the left of the board, I've got 3 passed pawns there, which means, you know, there's no other pawns to stop them advancing up. He can't stop all 3 with just a knight and his king, especially with me having a rook. So yeah, a good first game, and yeah, I'm happy with the way that went. So that's it for this video, guys. If you like this video, please click like, please subscribe to the channel. Look out for my next video, which I will play another game in and talk a bit more about what I've learned about chess between now and then. Thank you very much.